Hi there, I'm your host June Mack, and you're listening to the Little Psychic Podcast, the podcast with easy to understand, fun and down-to-earth spiritual learning which awakens in you the infinite intuitive power we all hold within. Little Psychic, I hope to ignite, nurture and drive your own psychic expansion. Are you ready? This episode is brought to you by the relaunch of the Little Psychic School, your psychic development learning space and light worker community. Live events, courses, and masterclasses for all levels and areas of spirituality. Down-to-earth and fun teachers, plus a supportive community, all inside our members-only app. A monthly subscription at an introductory limited time pricing at only $12 a week. No lock-ins. Has developing your intuition and psychic skills been calling to you? Then come join us and give it a go. You've got nothing to lose and a world of infinite possibilities to gain. There's no other space like it. Head over to thelittlepsychicschool.com. Welcome to episode 19 of the Little Psychic Podcast. This episode is called Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet, and it features Shannon, the Intuitive Guide. Hello and welcome to the Little Psychic Podcast. My name is June Mack. I am a psychic medium and psychic teacher, and I'm super excited because today I am here with my new partner in crime, Shannon Miller, or Shannon the Intuitive Guide. I have done a podcast episode before with Shannon. Actually, I think it might be one of the more recent episodes before we left off. Shannon, did you want to reintroduce yourself for those of you that don't know who you are?
Yes, thank you. Hi, guys. As June said, I'm Shannon, the Intuitive Guide. I'm a psychic medium and psychic development teacher at the Little Psychic School and a big lover of tarot card readings. So, yes, I have been on the podcast before. You can go back and check out that episode. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah, we're super excited today. We are going to be talking about coming out of the spiritual closet. Before we get into that, I'm just going to quickly go back to that part where I said that we've partnered up and talk real quick about how we've partnered up for the Little Psychic School, which I believe I've talked about it before on this podcast, but believe it's been taken to the next level. And Shannon has come on board as another psychic teacher within the space, and has come on board also as my partner in the Little Psychic School. So we're working together to make it the best psychic development community place that you've ever heard of, right, Shan?
Absolutely. We really want to create it as a space for those, what we would have wanted when we first started, and having that, not only being able to increase your abilities or work on your abilities, but to have others that you can talk to about it and can really relate to because they're going through the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that I was literally just talking about it today. Back when all my abilities sort of first started coming online, I had no idea where to go, where to begin, what to do, how to control it, what was happening, who to talk about it with. And, you go on Google and there's just a bucket load of info, and it's really, I believe, a place where you can either come when you're just getting started, or a place where you can come if you're a little bit further along and you want that community. There's sort of something for every level in there. And actually it's sort of this, the Little Psychic School kind of prompted today's episode, which we've been talking with a lot of people who have had fears about coming out of the spiritual closet. Like, I know you've experienced the same thing, Shannon, with, clients or people that you're talking to out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone, I think, seems to start at that journey, and, you start to get out there, but it's like, how are people going to perceive me once I actually get out there in the public? And, I think June and I both have a similar story where we we didn't really call ourselves psychics for a really long time because of that fear of fully stepping out of the spiritual closet and how people would take that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things, wrapped up in it, and there's so many different reasons that people have as to why they are afraid. When we're talking about stepping out of the spiritual closet, what we mean is actually going out there and telling, it might be friends, family members, you might have a social media following already. You might be hard. Like, there's a lot of people that we have within the little psychic school even that are 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So, there are some people that know about what they're interested in. You don't necessarily have to be a psychic already. You could just be actually interested in this type of spirituality side of things. And maybe you're just embarrassed to even talk about it, or the fact that you love ghost stories, or you believe in aliens, or you've seen fairies, like any of that type of stuff is normal talk from the world that Shannon and I are sort of a part of. But I know that when you're first, getting into all of this stuff, or you first start getting interested, you first start awakening, or things start happening for you, it's really hard to find that place or those people. So we were thinking, like, if we spoke about and shared part of our stories, that it would help other people to fully not be afraid to step out and just be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. There's power in sharing your story. You think that it's not a big deal, that it's just yours. But I know that by hearing other people's stories, and I found June through her podcast originally because we had the same mentor. And when our mentor was on your podcast, that's how it happened for me. But it's having that, knowing that there's others out there that are into the same things that you're into, because you're really fearful that people are going to think that you're weird and wonderful. But tell that my boys, all the best people are the weirdos. So embrace the weirdness, like, it's fantastic. And that's what I love about the community that we've built and continue to build on, is that we've got that space for someone. We have our corner of the world and we're slowly taking over.
Absolutely. I literally was just recording a reel just before we jumped on here, talking about how people are awakening at a crazy rate right now. I truly believe that, it's been a little while coming, but the earth vibration is raising as a collective. So along with that, it's changing all of us collectively as well. And things are happening. It's not becoming as strange to hear about people that do what we do. And I'm just noticing, so I hear stories every single day, like I'm seeing numbers everywhere, synchronicities, 111, 333. What does that mean? Or I'm going to sleep and now I see faces, or I hear voices, and these things are happening to people everywhere. So that's just the beginning of it. The next part is actually not being afraid to be yourself. And like you said, being what you would say some people might call weird. I personally, I'm in that space where people are like, oh my gosh, you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this story. And I'm like, man, there is nothing you could tell me that is going to weird me out. I've heard it all. But I think today we'll talk a little bit about what the experience was like for us personally. And I do get it. I do understand, the fear behind it, because I had a lot of those fears as well. So we're hoping that hearing these different perspectives will let you know that it's okay. It's all right. So first of all, I guess in terms of fears, Shan, what would you say were your biggest fears about coming out of the spiritual closet and telling people what it was that, you were into, or what was happening to you?
The biggest thing I feared was loss. I feared losing friendships. My family I wasn't so worried about because they're quite open-minded, but it was the friendships that I thought I would lose by saying I could do this, because a lot of people have this fear, and one of the first things people ask you is, can you read my mind? No, I can't read your mind. But I had this real fear around it because I've got, a very diverse group. I have a lot of friends who are highly religious, and I thought, oh my goodness, like even up to my father-in-law who is incredibly religious, I'm like, oh my gosh, if this gets back to him, what's he going to think of me? And it was that, not only the loss of who I thought might drop off, side note, no one dropped off, but it was also that I thought people would treat me differently. And because I always wanted to be Shan who did this. I didn't want to change the core of who I was when this come out, because that hadn't changed. Well, not for me anyway. And so I was worried that people would treat me differently and be a little bit more cautious, or not speak to me the way that they did before, open up the way they did before, because, you know, that maybe they thought I knew more than I did, because they understand I had these abilities. And it's like, because I don't know about you now in conversations, if I say something, someone will go to me, what do you know? What do you see? And I'm like, I don't see anything. I don't know anything. I'm not tuned in right now. But that was one of my biggest fears.
Yeah, I have people saying, well, you know, I'm just asking you this as a friend and not as an intuitive, because they're kind of hoping for me to tap in as an intuitive. I'm like, dude, I'm only listening as a friend. I got no idea. Not on work time right now, so I'm not tuning in. And, you know, just so people are clear, we didn't start out as a professional, you know, psychic medium. We started out just basically interested in this space. I've always been interested in this space, but I would never talk about it really. I was very guided with who I would share that side of myself with. But as soon as, you know, someone was like, oh my gosh, you know, I was in this old building and this happened to me, my little, you know, ears would prick up and I'd be like, oh, who's talking about ghost stuff? I was so interested, you know, to join that conversation. And, you know, it was quite obvious, like now that I look back at it, obviously I didn't plan, you know, from childhood, I'm going to be a psychic when I grow up. I would have thought it was cool. But it's quite obvious now when I look back at it that I would light up whenever anyone would speak about this sort of thing. So if that's you as well, that's probably your intuition telling you something, that you're onto something. If it really excites you to, you know, talk and listen about, you know, these types of experiences, you're probably, it doesn't mean you have to be professional psychic, you know, or medium or healer or whatever it is. It's just probably there to, you know, to help guide you in your life. But for me, I had the fear of loss as well, exactly the same. I thought that I was going to have to lose, especially my best friend for some reason. I had like this huge fear, and she's probably going to listen to this and be like, you idiot. That, you know, we've been best friends for so long and we were going to grow apart basically, which is, you know, a huge thing was her. And we definitely have not grown apart. She is interested in this side of things. She's definitely not a part of it. I could not imagine her closing her eyes to meditate for like 2 seconds, but she loves to hear about it and she supports me. But for me as well, I also had that fear that I would change. So I thought if I stepped, which of course you do to a degree, but we're always changing and we're here to change. So that's what we're here supposed to do. But I thought that I was going to be one of those unrelatable people that, you know, dance naked under the full moon, that like, you know, cut her hand like on the TV shows and like squeeze blood into things, like just totally, you know, getting my freak on, which, you know, you can do that if you want to, but definitely, and no judgment for those that do that, but I was just thinking, oh gosh, that's not me. And if that's not you, it doesn't have to be you. And I didn't lose, you know, I thought, oh, I'm going to lose my sense of humor. I'm going to lose my ability to relate to all different types of people. In fact, more of that has just become deeper in terms of being able to relate to different people. That it's changed for the better. But I also had, you know, this, you create these scenarios in your head. So one of the things that I used to do was when people don't believe in it, right, which is totally fine. We all have our points of views. But if someone were to argue to me that with me that I was speaking to the devil, which people do believe in that, and I had this fear around, or like, how is that conversation going to go? How do I explain myself? Like, and then I could feel myself getting really angry. And then I'm like, hang on a minute. This hasn't actually happened. I'm like going down this rabbit hole of like, what's if this happens? What's if this person hates me? What if this person says this? And the thing is that when I actually did come out, none of those conversations happened, at least to my face. I never have had to explain myself to that degree, you know, at this point. But the thing is, even if I did, I wouldn't now at this point even waste my time. Mm-hmm. So that was another realization that I came to, which is like, I don't have to justify anything. I know in my heart what I believe to be true and what I believe to be good. And that's really all that matters. Nobody else's judgment really matters. So, yeah, they were my fears.
And I agree with that so much, especially with the people that, you know, that I mentor, that you mentor. They have these fears and people are going to do that. And my advice to them is, it's not your job to justify yourself to them. Don't waste your energy on that. You know, you have your people, we're all entitled to our opinion, and that's okay. Our opinion, you know, and our beliefs and what we know to be true is within our hearts, and that's fantastic, and let them be them. I think the only person who's ever really questioned me is my dad, who's cheeky as anything and just tells me, well, if you're psychic, you'd know the lottery numbers. And my mum and I both jump down his throat and go, it doesn't work like that. And he's only being cheeky to rile us up. So, but other than that, everyone, if anything, and I think you've had a similar experience, is they're curious. They want to know more.
Yeah.
What is it you see? What is it you feel? How do you know? Like, they just want to know more. And it's because, like, there is this, the only way I can describe it is this curiosity for what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people have either been really curious, really supportive, or really like, oh my gosh, me too. I just, you know, haven't really, how cool, I've got someone to talk about this with. Or actually, you know, I've had so many males go, I went to Reiki and it was freaking insane. Like, this happened and blah, blah, blah. And then there are some people that really don't say much at all. And it's not always because they're judging you. I would have thought that in the past, but sometimes it's just because they're not familiar with it. They don't actually know what to say. They don't actually know what questions to ask because they know nothing about it. It's exactly like when someone starts talking to me about the football. And I, you know, I'm not judging you for liking football. I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, oh no, like this person likes football. I'm literally thinking, I don't know what to ask you. I don't know what to comment. I don't know, you know, how to converse about this because I literally know nothing. I'm like, yeah, that red shaped ball, hey, you know, like that's literally all I have to contribute to the conversation. And I think that's what it's like.
Well, that's so funny. That is so funny. I have the 3 boys who play soccer and a husband who's played soccer all of his life, and I still don't understand when they yell out he's offside. I'm like, what do you mean?
I don't know what that means either. And it's the same, like, you know, my husband, he loves cars, and I know I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but you know, I'm supportive of him and I listen to him because I love that he's passionate about something. But to be honest, I'm blank. Like, it's what's going on behind these eyes when he's talking about it is like a monkey clapping, you know, those, you know, bells together. It's not much going on and I'm just not taking it in. So I feel like for a lot of people, they definitely have, you know, that monkey, you know, going on behind there going, I have no idea what this person's talking about and I can't relate, which that's totally fine as well. But let's talk a little bit about, I guess, how we came out, like, you know, our experiences, what we did. Yours was so simple, Shan. I love your story. It was really like, you know, go for it. This happened and then that was it. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I leapt in 2 feet. So I was mentoring with Lindy, as we know. That's not a secret. That's been out there for a while. And it was just like, she was like, Shan, you need to create an Instagram. Cool. I think within an hour of speaking to her, I had my Instagram set up. Took me a little bit to figure out my name because, like I said, I really struggled with calling myself Shan the Psychic. It just didn't feel right for me. So I created the Instagram, and because I already had a public company on Instagram already, it linked. So it obviously then sent out a whole heap of suggested, like for people to follow me on that. And so that came out quite quickly. And then that sort of forced the conversations with the friends and whatnot of, you know, oh, I've seen your new Instagram, Shan, what's going on? And that opened the door for me. It was like, oh, so I've been, you know, mentoring with someone and I'm, you know, working on, and I used to call it my intuition. I'm working on my intuition. I never used to say I'm doing psychic mentoring. I don't know why. I just wouldn't, I had to come to terms and accept that first. And it was just, I'm working on my intuition. And so it was, it was that there was a few conversations where I was a bit worried. Like I said, my more religious friends, I thought, oh my gosh, they're not going to talk to me, because my fear was that they'd be like, oh my God, she's possessed by the devil. We're not going to talk to her. We're not going to be near her.
We all have that fear.
And they were some of my biggest supporters, right? Which was amazing. For me, it did. It felt like it went from 0 to 100 very quickly, that I went out there and that everyone started to know. As many of you know, I work a corporate job as well. That came out a little bit slower. And even that was fantastic. I work in a big department, and we had a department day, and we do these quite often. And my exec CA said to me, hey, Shan, how about you come in and do some tarot readings for everyone? We could offer that as a free service. We're going to do like a wellbeing day. I'm like, yeah, no worries. I had to get up in front of my whole team and go. And I remember even going, wow, I'm really coming out of the spiritual closet here. And I went out and just said it. And I was like, for those of you who don't know, outside of work, I'm a psychic medium. And today I'm going to be offering this for you. Man, I had people lining up for these tarot readings because we'd booked a little meeting room thinking, if a couple people jump in, amazing. I had to turn people away because I had to go home. Like I ran out of time. And that was a part of me that was really worried as well, is because I've got this corporate side. I've worked in this corporate business for 20 odd years, and I've made lifelong friends there. I've got family members who work for this company as well. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that was one of my biggest things, is how are they going to take it? And they took it really well. They embraced it. And I had all these fears for nothing. I'd wasted so much energy on this fear that everyone took it really well. And I call it my business side, but the psychic side really went from level up to level up to level up to level up. It was almost like this train on the tracks that I couldn't control. It was just going to keep steaming ahead for me, and I loved it, like not in a bad way. It was very exciting that it just kept going and going and going. And that's where I was like, and I loved that in that journey I came across yourself and the community, because they're the people I started to talk to every day. And it was like, what about this? What do you think about this? Especially, as you know yourself, I spoke to yourself almost daily. And then there's a few others within the group who I got that really strong connection with. And that's what helped me, I think, as well, to build that confidence to go, bugger, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to put myself out there. Yeah. And it came to the point where I could go, I can call myself a psychic medium now. And if people don't like it, I don't care. It's not my business to care. This is who I am. I'm not and I don't judge you for who you are. So, and that's where I had to be. Why am I so worried about people judging me? Because at the end of the day, I don't care if they do.
Yeah. Yep. And see, that's the thing, is like, to a degree, like you do, like for me, I do care, but then also it's not going to stop me from doing what I believe I am here to do. So of course there's always going to be when someone's like, oh, that chick's like batshit crazy. Like that's going to be a little stab in the heart, not going to lie. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, awesome, that person's calling me crazy. That's so cool. It is going to be like, a bit of a, oh, like that doesn't feel nice, but also you just got to take it and keep going. That's not their path. What you're here to do is not what somebody else is here to do. We all have different purposes. We all have different reasons why we're here. And we can't let one person's or a couple of people's opinions stop you from doing what you came here to do. Because guess what? On a woo-woo perspective, you're going to end up doing it again in your next lifetime. If you don't come to terms with it now and you don't get past these fears and you don't, live out to what you signed up to here to do, which might be to help other people awaken, which might be to help lift the earth's consciousness, however you want to word it. If you don't do it now and you don't get past that, then you're going to come back and do it again. So might as well just get it over and done with now and live a happy and contentful life, because when you are in line with what your purpose is, with what you came here to do, and if you are excited by this stuff, that is literally your intuition, going back to that word. So not psychic abilities if you're not comfortable with that, but telling you that you are on the right track for something. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to be a light worker, but that intuition part or this psychic stuff, if this is, you feel that in your belly, that excitement, that is directly linked to your purpose. Like, don't discredit those feelings. And any judgment, from a couple of people is going to be worth it to be able to be authentic to you. And my story, I love your story, Shannon. It's so positive. Like, I feel like you just had the most positive experience, and I love how you came out at work and, that happened. But I am also aware that that doesn't happen to everybody, and we'll come back to that in a moment. My story was a little bit different. So, I, have had these interests and certain things happening to me my whole life. And I had, those nudges, intuitive feelings, like around 2019, a whole heap of crazy stuff just started happening to me, and it started snowballing in terms of there was no more running away from it, basically. Like, spirit were turning up next to my bed. I was seeing things in front of me in the middle of the night. I was starting to hear things. I was starting to get downloads, which I didn't understand at that particular time. That's what they were. And it led me to a particular course or a particular person, back then. And I ummed and ahed about jumping into this psychic development course for such a long time. I actually ended up missing the first enrollment that she had. And everything in my gut told me that was wrong. I should have signed up. I should have done it. And then next time she relaunched it, it was more expensive. And I was like, see, I knew I should have just done it.
Listen to the first nudge.
Exactly. And I actually said to my husband, like, I really think I want to do this course. I really think I want to do it. And just like, wanted to see what it could, but it's a lot of money. Like, what do you think? And he said that he just got goosebumps all over his entire body and was like, oh, something tells me you have got to do this. Like, he's so intuitive. And I was like, okay, but what's if I turn into one of those weird people? Exactly, that fear that I had earlier. And he kind of said, like, well, we'll deal with that if it comes to it. So I did that. And similarly, how do you say that? Similarly. Say it for me, Shannon.
Similarly.
So, to yourself, things started happening very quickly, because I do believe for a lot of people, once they have the right guidance, it's a matter of not learning these skills, but relearning. So we already have this, innate knowing inside of us. We've done this many times before. Being in touch with your intuitive side or your psychic side, that is something natural. But you have the right guidance, it switches on so fast for a lot of people once they get the hang of, like, how to control it. And I very quickly was doing practice reads, and then I started doing reads in the closet. So I was too nervous to come out and say on the front line, because I was doing a business coaching type of business for myself. I was also working as a first aid instructor, so in my muggle work. And I was too afraid of that judgment from other people, and was still like, haha, isn't that person weird? Like saying that out loud about other people in this space, when really I was secretly into it, myself. And it took a lot of practice reads in the closet. So, like, just telling people in a small circle that that's what it is that I was doing, but not actually coming out on the front line. And then it got to a point, so similarly,
that word.
To yourself, yeah, that word, where you said that you just thought, F it, why do I care what other people are thinking? Because I thought, am I going to live my life for other people, or am I going to live my life for me? And do what truly makes me happy. And at the moment, this is what makes me happy. And I just started a different Instagram account, thinking that I was going to have, like, stay in this business coaching thing and then have this psychic stuff on the side. And, it was actually my personal Instagram account that I then made public. And I even deleted or blocked people who were from my religious friends who I thought were going to judge me. Turns out, like you said, they were actually the most supportive, like, hey, we don't believe in that stuff. Or like, we don't believe in, as in participating in that stuff. But I know heaps of people that do. Here's like heaps of my friends, and I'll send them to you as, like, literally still my clients now. They were so awesome. So I had to unblock all these people who found out about it somehow.
Sorry, peeps.
Yeah, I know, right? This is me, because we make up these stories in our heads. These things don't actually happen. And I just had people say, hey, I was just scrolling Instagram. You know, it's people who weren't close to me, because my inner circle knows this is always who I've been. I've always, you know, had things going on and things that I would say or know that were going to happen. Or dead people that came and visit me in dreams. I'm like, hey, your dad visited me last night. Are you pregnant? Oh, yeah, yes, I am. Yeah, that's crazy. You know, but people who went in my inner circle going, I was just scrolling Instagram. Next minute I see you pop up talking about psychic senses and stuff. Like, what's going on? Like, literally in my inbox. And yeah, like you said, it started the conversation. And I did actually so for me, I did lose some friends. I did have a few people who just, it triggered them for whatever reason that may be. Whether it's because they thought it was a load of BS, I don't know, or because of, you know, the videos we have to do for some people, them seeing other people, you know, talk or take selfies or, you know, that type of thing that's triggering for them. And I have a feeling intuitively that that's something that they just, you know, didn't like. And not that they, you know, ever spun any hate towards me, but they just dropped off. So there were people that I was close with who just fell away. And that is really scary to a lot of people. And it is sad. And I did go through like a grieving process. But the thing is that for every person that dropped off, which really wasn't many when I come back and like if I were to count, it's less than 5 on my, like less than one hand. I had like, you know, times 20, times 30 people come in who were, you know, aligned with what it was that I was going through, who are like soul sisters, like these close, you know, like yourself, really like type of relationships that are just like, I have known this person for like lifetimes and lifetimes before I would have had to, that have come in. So it's been worth it. But that's basically my story, kind of short, but not.
And I think that's a wonderful way to wrap that up, right? And because I'm the same, I've brought, even if, you know, people dropped off in the background, whatever, good luck to you. I wish you well. But it's brought in so many more people that are aligned, that cheer you on, that boost you up. And same as yourself, you included, I've made these friendships that no way I would have ever made if I didn't take this leap and come out of the spiritual closet. And they're now lifelong friends. You just know it. You're connected. And like you said, our souls have met before. 100% we've met before. And like I said, if I didn't start this, you know, I went and celebrated a friend's 40th on the weekend. I met her through doing this. And we are now so close. And if we hadn't made that, like if I hadn't made that leap, I would have never made that friendship. So as we grow and evolve as adults, our friendships grow and evolve anyway. So if you are stepping into this, my biggest piece of advice would be don't be afraid. Go for it. Even if you've got to take the baby steps, it's better than no steps.
Yeah, yep. And the thing is that there is a period almost like for a lot of people, and I don't know if this is the same for you, but for a lot of people where so this is just from mentoring a lot of people who go through, you know, from scratch basically. So mentoring them and being with them through this whole process really. And there's a lot of people that go through this period where so many people drop off that aren't aligned. So people that are, you know, using you because you're very, you know, empathic, you have no boundaries and you're too nice, and they're literally like, you're attracting narcissistic type of people. And they end up like, these people slowly drop off because they start creating boundaries, and they go through this period where all of a sudden so many people that they were close to, they don't resonate with anymore, unfortunately. And there's this period of grieving that. There's this period of like, I feel really alone. And then next minute, once you sort of work through that and they've kind of up-leveled, if that's a way of, I guess, of putting it, all of a sudden there's like 10 people there who are completely, you know, soul aligned, who they are like, where have you been all my life? We have the most amazing friendships, partners even, like we might rotate out a partner. I know that you were in.
That's me.
You have a similar story, with that. And then you attract in the non-narcissistic, not saying that that's you, just in terms of people that I've dealt with, you know, type of relationships that they're so happy with the new friendships that have come in. So if you are in that period of like where you feel like everyone's dropped off and you're feeling alone, don't worry. They're going to come back in.
Embrace it.
Yeah. And just chill and know that they're coming. Like your soul group, your soul sisters or brothers or whatever it is you want to call it, soul boyfriends, soul mates.
Soul people.
They're coming in. Yeah, there you go. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, so in terms of our stories, I guess they're not really like super scary, or we didn't really, for the two of us, go through something that was really, really, heartbreaking. But I know that there are some people out there who have, dealt with things like, are they too afraid to come out because they have like, a serious business side that they know if they show their face, in terms of being spiritual, that they might not be taken seriously? Or what are other reasons why some people might feel like they can't talk about this stuff?
I think that a lot of people worry about being misunderstood as well. I think there is that big thing, we're multifaceted. So it's how does it impact the other sides of it? I think what it comes down to as well is some people could be holding back because of their self-confidence. It's you put yourself out there, then you do your first, say, paid reading, and you get radio silence. I think that's what so many people are fearful of as well. I could put myself out there, but what if I make a fool of myself? And it is, and you and I both work with people where sometimes they have amazing abilities off the get-go, but their self-confidence is at an all-time low. And you and I, as part of them being their mentors, we have to help them build on that self-confidence to help them get to a point where they're not going to be fearful of that first paid reading, because that's where it changes, right? When you've gone from practice readings and there's not, it doesn't matter if you get it a little bit wrong in there, and you've got this safety net to, oh my goodness, someone's paying for my services now and the pressure's on. And I think that's what holds a lot back as well, is that's their goal to get there. But and it all comes back to the one thing, it's fear. We've got to work through that fear, because I know for myself, years into professional reading, to mentoring people and whatnot, and I say this to people, I still have fears that I'm going to get onto a call and get nothing come through. Hand on heart's never happened to me, but I still fear it. And I have to get on and remind myself, I can do this, and it's just being human. And I think that's, for newbies, they just have to rip the Band-Aid off a little bit and just give it a go. Like, I think that for me is, I see a lot from people is that, it stems out from fear, and that they're worried that when they get out there that they're going to be made a fool of. And then what are people going to say?
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. But like you said earlier, you said it just taking the baby steps. So when I first started doing paid readings, I charged $11 because that's what I felt comfortable with at that particular time. And then that took the pressure off me, thinking, it's $11, man, like you can't really go wrong. And then as my, my confidence grew, it slowly went up, like so slowly, piece by piece, and it went up. So, and the thing is, we have these fears which really are irrational, because you think, okay, if we go to worst case scenario, nothing comes through, like you said. So then think about how you're going to combat that. Okay, nothing comes through. What do? You just refund them the money, man. Like, it's not a big deal. You go, sorry, nothing came through for you, or I'm not feeling it at this particular time, or we're not connecting well, which, by the way, happens to so many people. I actually had, this is so funny we're talking about this, but not, a client this morning tell me that she booked in with, so this is someone that we would all know 100%, really well-known psychic medium, hundreds of thousands of followers, who she had a reading with this morning, who 15 minutes in could not get any information correct that was coming through. Does this mean that this person is a bad psychic medium? Absolutely not. Was she having a bad day? Probably. Or perhaps, her connection with that particular client just didn't work. And that actually made me think, wow, I was, thinking this person is killing it, which they are, of course, but also that kind of makes me realize we're all human. Like, this stuff happens. And you know what she did? Offered her money back to the client. And the client was like, she was lovely. And, Yeah, exactly. Had a great experience with her. It just didn't work for me. I got my money back. Who cares? So I was kind of like, yeah, we all fear that. But if it did happen, so what? Here's your money back. Here's your $11.
Yeah, it's not that
You know?
big of a deal. And I remember when I was getting mentored, that was one of my questions. What do I do if nothing happens? And that's what they said to me. They had only ever had that happen once. And it was just, they felt the vibe was off. And when they said to the client, the vibe's just not off. We're not feeling it. I'm going to refund you your money. And they went, yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm just not in the right headspace today. And so it might not necessarily be you as the person who's reading. It could be your sitter that's just not vibing it. They could have something that's going on and they're off in la la land and they're just not ready for it.
Yep, that absolutely happens as well. That's the thing that can happen, and it happens to the best of us. So that's such a good point. The other thing as well, I also have people who are afraid to come out because they will lose family members. Like they do have, a mum who thinks that this is absolutely a no-no. Like I come from a Filipino Catholic background, that it's super superstitious. And I've had family members say, oh, your daughter's, seeing shadows or shapes, or we need to close her third eye. Like we've got to do that. And I'm kind of like, yeah, no. Like that's not, my belief. But there are people out there who, that could be a possibility. Do you have any advice for people who, they are afraid, because it's not just losing a friend, but like these important relationships potentially?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways this could go, right? My first thought is, can you step out to the public just a little bit? Or do you keep it more as a closed group? But I guess what you have to sit to is, do you actually want to come out in public? I think that's what you have to decide first, because you and I both stepped into this space, first of all, to learn more about it for ourselves. I was never intending, when I started this, my intention was never to become this public figure and offer public readings and stuff like that. So I think you really need to decide with yourself before you take that step, is that actually what you want, or are you just learning it for your own self-growth and development? I think then if you do want to pursue it, you have a couple of options. Like I said, you can come out publicly, but maybe, silently in public. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say here is, like, can you step out and not necessarily, do it in a way, I've got parents who wouldn't know how to use social media necessarily. So would they not find out? Could you keep it, a closed group, a private group instead of a public group or something like that? So you're out in public, in quotes, but not necessarily out there. Or go to that family member and say, this is me. It's almost like, so many things in life, if you're coming out in different ways, like spirituality isn't the only thing you could come out with. And could you go to them and have that conversation and say, this is me? But we can't control how someone else reacts to what we do. We just have to be prepared for it. So I think even if you go to them and have that, you're never going to be able to control how they react, and be prepared for that they may not react well. And know that if that is the case, then you need to let them go through the process of acceptance, and hopefully that they get to acceptance. So you can't force it and go, hey, Mom, I'm a psychic. Whether you like it or not, you got to accept it. No. I think you need to give them the space to go, I know that you're not going to be happy about this. I get this, but this is me, and I need you to accept me as who I fully am. And then let them decide how to proceed from there. And I know it would be tough, absolutely. And know that if that does happen to you, that you have a community behind you who will be here with open arms, ready to accept you for who you are, the weird and the wonderful. I always say that. I love the weird and the wonderful. Bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, what you said about, being, somewhat not having to tell them everything. So I've had, some clients say like, well, how do I tell my parents-in-law, that this is what I do? And I said, well, what do they understand? First of all, do they know about, meditation? And because they have no idea about Reiki, energy healing. There are some people that just honestly no idea. And they said, oh yeah, like, they sort of understand, meditation or yoga, and it's not telling a lie. But I'm like, well, why don't you just sort of tell them in a way that they understand, which is what you do is, a form, she's a healer, a form of helping people, like meditate, right? Because you don't need to go into Reiki and all the symbols, and we're channeling, information from universal source through us and then out. We don't need to go into that because they don't get it. So she's like, oh yeah, I'll just tell them, which is still the truth, that I am helping people, with, some form of meditation. They get to relax in front of me and I talk them through a meditation, and because that's what they understand. And she thought, oh, I never thought of it like that. And these people don't have social media. They're not going to go and look it up. You don't have to go into the nitty gritty. And she's like, I have not told them this for years. And I went and told them. They couldn't give two hoots. Like when I actually told them, they were like, oh yeah, cool, Like, so she's held that back for years, had it on her, like thinking, oh my goodness, they're going to not want me to be married to, their son anymore. And really they were just like, awesome. And that was it. And she thought, oh my goodness, I've held myself back for this long. And that's what the reaction is. Also, I can't, speak for everybody, but for me in particular, and for pretty much most people that I have connected with, nothing feels as good as being able to be authentic to who you are. So everything changed in my life for the better when I was able to 100% be myself and not be afraid of who I was anymore or what other people were going to think of who I was. Because I know, and the only judgment that really matters is your own. If you're a good person, you're coming from a good place, that's all really, that matters. And there are people that I know that unfortunately, have not been accepted by other family members. But the thing is, for them, being able to be authentic within themselves has been worth it, because it is exhausting trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not and trying to hold back who you are to please other people. Nothing feels better than just coming out and being like, hey, I talk to dead people.
But in saying that,
wait for the pause.
You had me thinking before, right? Even when we share a job that we do and say it, be it in the Muggle word or whatever, you never explain what you do in your day-to-day tasks anyway. People ask, what do you do, right? So my corporate job, I'm a learning and development specialist. People go, oh, yeah, cool. Like, and then that's it. They're not like, oh, so what do you do every day and what programs do you use and like, how do you do that? Break it down for me. They don't. So why is this any different? My question is, why is this any different? It's not. Yeah. It's just a different type of work.
Yeah, absolutely true. And you know how many times I hold my breath when someone goes and they're a new bunch of people, like, kinder mums, for example, what it is that you do. And I go, oh, here we go. And then I'm like, actually, I'm a psychic medium. And they go, oh, awesome, cool, I'll look you up. Or they go, oh, cool. And then just start, oh, yeah, did you see that person the other day? Like literally go on to the next subject. It's like, my heart goes, oh, God, here we go. But then nothing happens, or they really don't care. I'm like, man, I've just given myself too much the benefit of the doubt here. People really, half the time don't really care. It's our own heads. It's our own fears. It's our own judgment of ourselves that is holding us back in so many different situations.
Absolutely. So that's what I mean. Just say it. Be authentic. There is nothing like living authentically you. You and I both know that our lives got better once we started living authentically who we were and didn't hide behind any curtains. The wizard's out. He's not behind the curtain anymore. We are living authentically. And you know what? Life is bloody good. Even when it's bad, it's good. Like I have the tools as part of this to deal with those things now. And on top of that, I've got this beautiful tribe behind me that, as a few people know, that about 12 months ago, our lives as a family got completely blown up. We had to deal with a medical issue for my son. And my woo-woo tribe were some of the first people behind me messaging me every day. How's it going? What's happening? Are you guys okay? Do you need anything? Like, it was wonderful. That's what I mean. If anything, it has definitely enhanced our lives. It is not taken away from. It is enhanced instead.
That's such a great way of putting it, because I had a great life before, but it's 1,000 times more enhanced. Now, that's a really great way of putting it. So I guess putting an end note to that, is there anything else you kind of wanted to add in there, or any other pieces of advice around this topic?
I think just if it's in you to do this, trust that. The biggest thing with any of your intuition, your psychic abilities, your mediumship abilities is to trust and surrender. So if it is happening to you and you are going through it, to step out of the spiritual closet, trust and surrender the intuitive messages you are getting on how to do it. So if it's saying do it by baby steps, if it's doing it listen, once again, don't ignore your intuition. It got you this far. So continue to listen to that and do what feels right for you. Don't look at what others are doing. That is another thing. Get inspired by, take from, but carve your own path out. That is one thing I can say. Carve your own path out.
Yep, I definitely agree. And as I said earlier, I believe that if you've got some excitement towards this, or some passion or fire in your belly that you feel in regards to, spirituality, or when you think about enhancing your own intuition or psychic abilities, whatever it is, or mediumship abilities or healing abilities, whatever it is that you feel comfortable saying or labeling yourself as, you don't have to label it, then there's probably something to it. Not everyone is going to go down the same path as me and Shan, but that is an amazing thing. And that is also a great thing about our community, is that there are people going down all different types of paths, all at different, stages and levels, and in different areas. And it doesn't matter, we're all really supportive of each other. And the thing is as well, so many people, and this is something that comes through my readings all the time, people try to jump to the end result and then freak themselves out because they go right down that end lane like I did, like I'm going to lose all my friends, which, by the way, same group of girlfriends since high school. There's like 9 of us, and the exact same group I still have. They know what I do. Not everyone understands it completely, but we're still tight as I still have that same group. But then I also have these new enhanced, friendships to enhance my life. So rather than go to that, try to figure out what that end point is, Spirit in my readings always comes through with, go to that next step first and actually take that small step, and then figure out what your next move is from there on. Because when we go wrong in terms of using your intuition, in terms of freaking ourselves out, is when we try to get to the end game. Because I tell you now, 4 years ago when I started really, or 5, whatever it was, really started honing in on this stuff, if I had seen where I would be right now, I probably wouldn't have taken one little step forward, because I wasn't ready back then. It would have freaked me out. Like, I would have gone, okay, I reckon that's really cool, but hell no. I'm not doing that. But because I've allowed it to evolve piece by piece, I've slowly grown and I've slowly become ready, and I wouldn't change a single bloody thing that I've done. Like, it's been one of the single most, obviously besides my family, my husband and my children, best thing that I've ever done. So I'm hoping that, if anything, this inspires you. Me and Shan can tell you from our perspectives, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Just do it. Go with it. Trust that intuition.
Yep. And just as we're about to finish this up, I've just looked, it's 222. So I think that's perfect timing. We love our angel numbers to finish this up. So if you have any questions about this, anything you want to, add on to it, come and find us on social media. We are, if you would like to learn from me and Shan, you can learn from us and many other amazing intuitives inside the Little Psychic School. And thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Little Psychics, I wanted to thank you for tuning into the Little Psychic podcast with June Mack. I am so grateful to have had you here. You can find me over at junemack.com or on all social media at Ms. June Mack. You can also keep up with me at thelittlepsychicschool.com and on IG at The Little Psychic School. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much if you could please subscribe, rate, review and share. It's been an absolute privilege to be in your ears.